get around to. Yeah.
From Jersey.
So Parsha Tetzaveh is famous for a couple of things. Number one, it only has 7 mitzvahs, and they're all related to the Mishkan and the Chanukas Aaron. So you have some of the essential kelim. However, mostly spending a lot of time on the begodim of Aaron and his sons, and the Cheshvan Mishpat, etc., and the Urim V'Tumim, and then you have the karbonos for which Aaron and his sons were dedicated, and ultimately ends up with the Mizbeach HaKetoros. So the kasha al Mefarsh Masters was Mizbeach HaKetoros. Why isn't it listed among all the rest of the kelim? All the other kelim we have in Parsha's Truma, everything except for Mizbeach HaKetoros. Because in Parsha's Tetzaveh, it's primarily referring to the Avodas HaKohanim. All of a sudden, at the end, tells us the mitzvah of making Mizbeach HaKetoros. That's the way Shvi starts off. So there are a number of different answers that are given for why the Mizbeach HaKetoros is not listed among the rest of the kelim, the base of Mikdash. The Kli Yakar says a really interesting pshat, and it starts to define what the Mizbeach HaKetoros. Mizbeach HaKetoros is where they would bring the Ketoros, the incense offering, the fragrant. They would put this combination of the spices all together and put it on the fire pan. Put the fire pan and put the Ketoros, the spices, on the fire that's on the Mizbeach Hazav, which is a small fire. And the Mizbeach Hazav was actually not made out of gold; it was made out of wood. It was covered with gold. To tell us that all the rest of the avodah of the Beis HaMikdash, Mishkan, the Beis HaMikdash, was the mechaper for the Chet HaEgel, the mechaper for Averis that Klal Yisrael had done. Because according to many Mefarshim, the Chet HaEgel was a repetition of the Eitz Hadas, and just like by the Eitz Hadas, Chazal tell us that Adam and Chava were over the 3 great Averis, right? Because the Nachash tempted Chava. Mm-hmm. So there's Avigila Rayas, Shvichas Dam because they brought death to the world, and Avodah Zarah because that was one of the things that the Malachim wanted to worship Adam because he was so great, or because that was what the Nachash promised Chava. Yisam Kilagim, you're going to be like Hashem. So they bought into, the okay. So therefore what happened at Eitz Hadas was like Avodah Zarah. Either because they were promised they would be like God, or because they made the mistake, and they thought they almost thought they were. The same thing happened by Chet HaEgel. Chet HaEgel, we know that they killed Chor, so it was the Shef Chadam.
Who?
Chor.
Yeah. They come.
He was son of Miriam's son. And they worshipped the Egels, Avodah Zarah. And it says that they Stachel Kol Ladder, so there was Gila rice there. So the 3 big Averos were repeated again by the Chet HaEgel, and all the rest of the Kalim of the Mishkan, the fact that it had to be Zov was the Mechaper for the Egel Azov, and all of the Choshes was because they listened to the Nachash. Right? So the only thing that was not attached to in any way to the Chet of Adam Marishan was the sense of smell. Zohar says that every one of the other senses were affected by the Chet of Eitz Hadas, except for because it says that they saw the Eitz it was good, it tasted, right? But it didn't say it smelled good. There's no avera of reach by the chait of Adam Rishon, and that's the reason why we have Havdalah, and that's why I have summon. Because since the only thing that is left of the direct connection between the neshama and this world is the sense of smell. Because Adam and Chava never were a program, they never created that flaw. So Adam and Chava were left with the sense of smell, which is interesting and just close to social commentary. Why that one of the big things problems with COVID was affected people's sense of smell. So we can draw some interesting conclusions. But nevertheless, it was never affected by the Eitz Hadas, and it was never affected by the Chet Ego. So the sense of smell is a direct link to the neshama. Direct link to the neshama. The neshama benefits directly from the sense of smell. So therefore, the Mizbeach Hazav, which was the Keteris, had nothing to do with Chet Ego. The purpose of the Mizbeach Hazav, the incense offering, was a tikkun for the neshama, and that had to do with just the limitation on that we still have to deal with the physical world. So that part of the physical world which is most connected to tikkun on neshama was the Keteris. So the question is why? Well, what's the purpose of Mizbeach Keteris and the whole offering of the Keteris? Because the Keteris is the one part of the Karbonos which we say every day. Some say it twice, and some say it 3 times a day. It depends how you say it. Shachris before Karbonos before Pesukah de Zimra, and Kilakenu, and then again before Milcha. Right? Okay. And the one warning says, which it doesn't say in the Parsha of anything that we say every day, except for Keteris. If you make one mistake, wrong, right? Chayiv misa. That's pretty awesome. If a person does any other chait, there's all difference with the einshim, right? The carbon, the person's moil behekdesh, or he has machshavas pigul. He could be chayiv chorus maybe, but it doesn't say it's chayiv misa. Chayiv misa. So there must be something in the Keteris and the Mizbeach Keteris that tells us to pay attention to something very, very different than anything else in the Kelim of the base of the Mishkan. And that's so therefore the Kliyaka says that's why this Parsha of Mizbeach Keteris is separate from all the rest of the Kelim of the Mishkan. Comes at the end of the Parsha, and then it requires a little bit more insight.
You didn't know how to make the terraces out the one missing item?
Question.
There's a question. If you leave off one, the person's not probably not chayiv misa, because they have to all of them. But if the kohen leaves off one of them, back to Keteris, one of the Simonim, chayiv misa.
Even today.
That's why the meaning of many people is to count the Keteris. They count with their fingers. Right? Which all 11 primary ingredients.
So I could technically take the ingredients and mix them?
Technically you could. First of all, the real question is they have found in the Qumran caves down in near the Negev and near the Yam HaMelech, they found caves which they have found jars of spices already set aside, and they did a spectrum analysis, and they found that they were able to identify 10 out of the 11. One of them they weren't able to identify; they don't know what it was, and that's not such a chiddush because there was one that was only found in that period of time. And the way it comes, and from what we understand, that it comes from a tree that grows in somewhere in Morocco, I think.
That one item?
Yeah.
Wow.
Atzek tough.
Shouldn't it be that it grows in Eretz Yisrael?
Doesn't. At least they have not found it growing. The only way that's
These days.
yeah.
Okay.
So they had to. It's very strong that this tree is known and it was very prized, and the perfume from that tree sells for a fortune even today. So we find in Mishpacha magazine.
I thought I was going to say there's not.
Well, there's not is always late.
Yeah, they have this whole.
They're still looking into it right now before they publish it.
Yeah.
Wikipedia.
Moshe, the Moshe His mind is always.
So once I realized that tree is a rare tree and its fragrance, the sap from that tree, is maybe it's the Levina. It's just one of the fragrances of the Keteris, and it's an enormously valuable spice. So then, and even cinnamon, which sometimes translated as cinnamon. Cinnamon wasn't relative. Cinnamon was considered the spice of kings.
Right.
Only kings had cinnamon. They had to bring it from China.
Right.
It's part of them. So we understand that the spices of the Keteris themselves were extremely rare, but they had them. You know, how they had them in Mitzrayim and how they had them in the Midbar is open for lots
they
of.
took them from Mitzrayim.
Yeah, things don't like that grow in the desert, except for the Medrash that says that the bear Miriam, which is also mentioned in this Parsha, that whenever the camp bear Miriam would immediately start with the camp, the bear would start pouring water, and immediately the entire forest would grow. The forest and crops would immediately start to grow in the Midbar. So it could be that just simply all these rare species grew at that point in the Midbar called Derech Hanais. One explanation. However, it still doesn't quite tell us why the Mizbech Keteris is separate and what's so unique about the Keteris that it is something with which stands all on its own in the Avodas Hamikdash, and its the consequence of even one small step being wrong, Misa. So Chazal tell us that every one of the steps of this parsha of both the Big Day Kahuna and everything that he wore, for which Abayah is Machaper. The Me'il, for instance, is Machaper for Lashon Hara. The Tzitz is Machaper for the Zohar. It's not on the Mesach of the Kohen Gadol yet, but the Keteris is kapar for machshavos, for thoughts, because Keteris, the fragrance, is an intangible. We've talked about the sense of smell is a unique koyach. It's such a strong unique koyach. There was a study I saw, 30 years ago, where they were trying to understand what creates sense of smell. I found that there's some nerve endings, receptors in the back of our throat, which then can convey pulse up to the brain and therefore creates the sense of smell. And that's what was affected by COVID. But still, what makes those sensors?
What does that do? Denotes it's on the tongue.
Yeah, it's in the back. It's the back. It's in the back of the throat, right? It's access to the nose.
Oh.
Nose and throat are connected. That they took 100 babies who just learned how to crawl, and they took shirts from each one of the babies' mothers and spun them around the room. 95 of the babies found their mother's shirt. They crawl around. They could tell babies smell the smell of a mother's shirt. Babies that are like 6 to 9 months old, just learning how to crawl, could find their mother's shirt. That's how. That was the study that was done to try and define what makes the sense of smell so unique. It leaves an impression deep into the mind of into the human mind from early childhood. So it's obviously something of great importance. If a baby can already use a sense of smell to identify who its mother is, so then we recognize that the sense of smell has been embedded within us almost from the first moment we enter this world. Before there's any intellectual or even emotional development, the sense of smell permeates all the way straight to the mind of a child, to the senses of a child. So therefore, the Mizbeach HaKetoros represents the kapara for machshavos, because what's a thought? For every other sense that we have, we could talk about how to do a mitzvah and how to do averos. Hands, legs, there's ways to describe which averos are related to which part of the body. But for machshava, it's the hardest thing to do tshuva for. Our thoughts are spinning around. Our thoughts. I want a kapara for that thought, or for that thought. But there's all the other thoughts and connections and senses and awarenesses that are taking place. So to do tshuva for machshava is the hardest one to do, because you can't say, right, the person did an aver with their hand, the hand has to suffer. That we could do. But you can't even do it with the moach, with the brain. It's the process of machshava. That's why we say by tefillin, our thoughts is connected to our neshama. It's a direct connection of our neshama's connection to our senses takes place in the moach. The thought process is a connection directly from our body directly to our neshama, from our brain directly to the neshama. So therefore, how do we tshuva for our machshava? How is it possible to do tshuva for our machshava? Thirst. Because it touches the place in the brain which connects to the neshama, was never affected by the chait of Adam Muhammad, never affected by the chait of Egel. It still is the only sense with which we have a direct to be able to connection. We can make a bar minei b'samim and make a bracha and smell it, and nothing happened to our body, right? Our body didn't change, but our sense of smell transferred that immediately to our brain, directly to our neshama. So therefore, the Mizbeach HaKetoros would have to be different than any other keli of the Beis HaMikdash. It had to be different. So it was Amma by Tumas Amos, 1 Amma by 1 Amma, and 2 Ammas tall, because there's Echad, the Achdus, Amma by Amma. No halves, no differences between length and width. Right? The Aron HaKodesh is a difference. Right? And it was solid wood. It wasn't like the Mizbeach Necheshes, which was filled with stones or with the earth. It was solid wood, and the fire on it was really a small fire, so it never burned through the gold. So we reckon that there was a point which was we call the intangible point, directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Yoker says that's why it says Pasuk Vav, Lam Pasuk Vav. You have to make sure that this Mizbeach Hazav is right in front of the curtain, right in front of the Aron Kodesh, not to the right, not to the left, right? But mamish right in front of the curtain. Which is right in front of the kaparas, the gold, the kuvim, the gold top of the Aron Kodesh. Asher al, which covers over the luchos. Asher ve'eluchasham. That's why I appear for you. So it's not, and besides that, the Aron Kodesh is the place for where HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicates with us. The Mizbeach Hazav has to be there, because that place that gets the tikkun for that one place is such a fantastic tikkun, has to be mamish in front of the Aron HaKodesh. Oh, there's a difference of the parachas, so we can see them as Mizbeach Hazav a whole year, and the curse was brought every single day. The Aron HaKodesh was only accessible on Yom Kippur, only accessed on Yom Kippur. And it's the only time that dam was used on the Mizbeach Hazav was on Yom Kippur. To put dam on the four corners of the Mizbeach Hazav. So the Teres and the Mizbeach Hazav is that meeting point, the point between the way that we think and our relationship to Hashem. The only one thing that's close to that is a sense of smell. So the Mizbeach Hazav had to be unique in its production, and it was brought this, as it says, Pasuk Zayin, that the Keteris was brought every morning when they lit the menorah. So it has to be it's right in between, right by the menorah itself, and it represents, and it not represents, it accomplishes what you can't do with any action. Intangible. So one of the interesting things which Rashi points out, unfortunately to Gemara, that the Mizbeach Hazav also had poles with which to be carried. So they said, if you take a look at the picture, right, the poles were attached to its corners, to two corners.
It didn't go through the side. It
didn't go on the side, it went on the angles, on the two corners. So the question is, how many people was needed to carry the Mizbeach Hazav? You would say 4, right? Because there's 4 poles. There are 2 poles.
Right, but each side. Technically 4.
So, so you would think that there's 4, but the Gemara says it can't be, because it's only an amma wide. There's no way for 2 people to stand next to each other and carry the Mizbeach Hazav. So it's only 2 people. It meant that the one person in front carried it on both of his shoulders, and the one person behind carried it on his shoulders, and that's how they carried the Mizbeach Hazav. So, it's possible that you remember your high school algebra. I mean, your high school geometry. That the corners are a little bit bigger than amma by amma.
Pandas.
Huh?
Pandas.
The Euclidean theory, the hypothesis. Right?
Never heard that.
Right? You remember that?
Maybe I never heard that one.
You're going to get it. You're going to high school geometry. Yeah. Okay, but even so,
I blocked it out.
Actually, not sure, but I have
even so, Euclidean
Addition, subtractions, pandas.
Yeah, that's what you remember, right? But so on the angle, the right. Okay, but even so, not enough for 4 people to carry it.
Correct.
Okay. So just think about it. It's just 2 people in front, 2 people back, and that has to be the way the Mizbeach Keteris was designed to be carried. Different than any of the other kelim of the Beis Hamikdash.
It probably hurt to have a corner on your back.
In fact, I can still remember a little bit of my high school geometry is amazing. Oh, gosh. However, but what it does tell you that for machshava to be matar machshava, to do tshuva for machshava, if you only look a little bit in front of you, you can only look a little bit behind you, but not more. I tell you that if you want to be matar machshava, don't think about what you did. Just it's just limited. You say, okay, I need to be Matayim. So don't go too far back. Don't go back to old memories. Those old memories are irrelevant. Right?
Trying to forget geometry.
Yeah.
Trying, it's
Yeah.
always been forgotten. Never been
And how far can you project a thought? How much should you think about the future? Just as what's right in front of you. So the fact that there was two people, one in front and one in the back, tells you that the kapara for the keteris need to be limited to how people saw their past, not to get caught up, not in the past, and not to try and project into the future. Only what carries directly. So then the Mizbech Keteris then takes its own unique avodah. Now the Keteris, a whole year could be brought by any Kohen. Only on Yom Kippur, Kiddush. But the avodah on the base on Yom Kippur had to be done by the Kohen Gadol. They took the dam, which was from the korbanos of Yom Kippur, and it was brought onto the corners of Mizbech. That's the only time that anything else other than the Keteris was brought on Mizbech. So I don't think it was ever that. Nothing else was ever brought on. So if that's the case, then let's put this into our current life. Okay, because if you take a look at the psukim for the Keteris, which is a whole school to say, one school for many things is brought on. What should say the psukim of the Keteris, the Bryces, the Ton Rabban. That's the school or the Inyan of saying Keteris is this Parsha. And then it brings to Bahalos Aaron as ben Abayim Yaktira, no? When Aaron would really light up the menorah, that's when they brought the Keteris, Yaktira, no? Keteris Tamid Livnei Hashem L'Doros Hashem. The Keteris is a continual missile for all future generations. So that's one of the reasons why we say the Keteris, because it's not just bringing the Keteris. The mitzvah of Keteris is every single day. Keteris Tamid L'Fnei Hashem L'Doros Hashem, all future Keteris. That every time that we say the Parsha Keteris, we're putting ourselves in a place where our most difficult part of our tshuva, which is our thoughts, can we have a tikkun every single day. And that's why in Chesar Chas V'Kol, if you're missing one part of it, you're saying, okay, you know what? I don't have to do tshuva for all my thoughts. I do tshuva for some of my thoughts. Our brain doesn't work that way. Our brain doesn't have nice boxes that come. Our brain is working 365 days, 24 hours a day. Our thoughts are continuously working. And in fact, if you'd ask a neuroscientist, the brain has no past. The brain is functioning continuously. However, there is no over, there's no asid. The brain is processing. Yeah, it has impressions. It picked up information from the past. So just to get up a little bit off the subject, they did to prove that. They, I think it's Northwestern University, did a study on how people relate to the past. There's Psych 101 class. The professor would throw a party at the beginning of the school year, and arrange for two of the students to have a fight, and they do something drastic, like pour stuff all over you. And everybody get caught up with what happened, and it was all video recorded. 6 months later, the professor stops the class. He says, "Okay, everybody remember the party we had at the beginning of the year? I would like each person to write down what they remember from the party." And every student would write down exactly what they exactly remember. And then they showed them the video, and nobody remembered correctly. Because there's no past for our brain. Our brain is constantly processing. So even if the information that our brain picks up and gets stored as a component of our thought process, the neurons and the synapses, right? It's all pivots. What my brain processes now, not what it saw before, but what's processing now. There is no past for the brain. So therefore, Chazal tell us, Talmud lifnei k'teres l'tov. Our ability to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Talmud. It's always constant. We can always bring ourselves closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with our thoughts. Even if our actions, we can't do, we don't have the karbonos to be mechaper for us, we say Yerotzin, right? But this line, K'teres Talmud lifnei tells us that the Parsha of K'teres is to mechaper for us right now as we are. So if we take this opportunity, we're getting into the avodah of the dedication of the Kohanim after we told them what the Kohen Gadol has to wear, what the sons have to wear, what they have to wear different begodim and to be makabel, do tshuva for Chet HaEgel and all of its consequences. Now Hashem gives us a special present. He gives us a mitzvah of the Mizbeach HaKteres, for us to bring Kteres, so that every single day we can complete our machshavas if we allow ourselves to get into understanding how our thoughts can be elevated, just like the fragrance of the Kteres. And if that's the case, then the Mizbeach HaKteres is the key for all future generations for how to do tshuva. So this Shabbos will be a Shabbos of tshuva, where we bring ourselves to even a higher madrega than we ever thought we could ever get.
Amen.
Have a great Shabbos, couple. Baruch, whoever else is going to